WROC TV8.
Good morning, everyone. This is Wednesday, and it is, what is it, December what, 4th? I forgot. 5th. It's the 5th of December. We've made it all the way to that part of the month. We get well organized around here, as you can see the morning. Good morning, Gene Shalit.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Jane Pauley. As we have so often recently, we're going to start with the news because it continues, this crisis in Iran. In Iran this morning, militant young Muslims holding American hostages are warning that the hostages will be tried by a revolutionary court if the Shah is not returned. And they rejected the idea of a unanimous vote by the United Nations Security Council that the hostages be released immediately. Hillary Brown now reporting from Tehran.
There was a change of scene outside the American embassy this morning with the arrival of several hundred armed members of the Revolutionary Guard. Along with new recruits and local militiamen, they marched past the embassy compound, chanting militant slogans of support for Khomeini and what they called the ideology of Islam. They carried locally made G3 automatic rifles and Israeli-made Uzi submachine guns. Students inside the embassy would not comment to camera on the Security Council resolution condemning the occupation, but they confirmed that if the Shah was not returned to Iran soon, they would go ahead and try their hostages as spies.
We know that they are spies because we have the documents. I can say to you just this.
It's not clear yet how the hostages will be tried, if indeed they are brought to trial. In an interview with the official Pars news agency yesterday, the foreign minister said they'd be tried by the students, not the revolutionary courts, and that this would be soon. In the meantime, the theme of warlike anti-Americanism continues to be played here, as demonstrators call for nothing less than Shah's extradition.
This is the first armed demonstration of support for the occupation of the embassy since the Ayatollah Khomeini's call to arms 10 days ago. It could be seen as a sign of Iran's defiance of the Security Council resolution calling for the release of the hostages. Hillary Brown, NBC News, Tehran.
And at the White House this morning, President Carter is now officially a candidate for re-election, but the Iranian crisis and not the campaign is getting most of his attention. John Palmer is standing by at the White House this morning. John, first of all, I suspect that they were not surprised that the Muslim students rejected the idea of the UN Security Council vote. But what will happen if these American hostages are put on trial?
Tom, no doubt that was one of the main topics of discussion yesterday when the president met with his top diplomatic and military advisors. That was a very extraordinary meeting. It lasted for 2 hours yesterday afternoon here at the White House. Another such meeting is planned for just a few minutes from now, again in the West Wing of the White House, the president and his advisors. From the very beginning, the president has said, and indeed the State Department has said, that these are diplomats, that they should not be tried under international law. That's the official position. The State Department and the White House officials are known to have planned at yesterday's meeting several steps to be taken perhaps over the next 2 weeks. One of those steps being diplomatic, another one perhaps being economic. In fact, a series of steps. There's a feeling now that the religious fervor period of the Islamic holiday is over, and these steps can be taken to perhaps bring a slight degree more of pressure in an attempt to free those hostages. I think it's worth noting, Tom, that the president said last night in a paid political broadcast that the solution to this question will not be quick and it will not be easy. I think he was preparing the American people for perhaps even much more frustrating periods than we have gone through for the past month.
Thank you, John Palmer, standing by at the White House this morning. The Shah remains at Lackland Air Force Base near San Antonio, where he was seen taking a walk on the golf course. Surrounded by security guards, the Shah also reportedly spent some time watching his wife play tennis. In San Antonio, Iranian students wanted to protest the Shah's presence, and the Ku Klux Klan wanted to demonstrate against the students. So city officials banned all demonstrations. Billy Carter, the president's brother, has some thoughts on the Iranian crisis. He says that Senator Kennedy pulled a Billy Carter when he said that the Shah should be kicked out of the United States. The president's brother said the senator put his foot in his mouth and now he can't get it out. Asked about the Ayatollah Khomeini, Billy said, anytime you let a religious leader run things, in Billy's words, they screw it up. All of this came at a down-home campaign party for the president last night. Here's Kimberly Jones.
Far from the cares of Washington, in the president's hometown of Plains,
There are a lot of people who care very much about whether Jimmy Carter gets reelected. Supporters from Plains and other South Georgia towns gathered at a motel in Americus to listen to the president's speech on television. While they waited, they were entertained by the Americus High School singers. To help raise money for the campaign, they paid $25 a couple for a buffet supper and all the champagne or beer they could drink. Brother Billy was there, so was Cousin Hugh, and so were many of the people who backed Jimmy Carter in politics long before he first decided to run for president.
My campaign travel must be for a time postponed. I must remain here near the White House because of the situation in Iran.
The president's supporters here say his handling of the Iranian situation has been a political plus. If the Iranian crisis is resolved, Carter supporters may be justified in calling it a political blessing in disguise. If efforts to resolve the crisis fail, it will be called many things, but not a blessing. Certainly not by Carter supporters. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Americus, Georgia.
And this morning in Moscow, the Communist Party newspaper Pravda accused the United States of using blackmail and threats against Iran. In a strongly worded article, Pravda also claimed the United States was preparing to use force, possibly nuclear weapons, against Iran. The article appeared, ironically enough, as the Soviet delegate to the United Nations was voting with the United States on a resolution demanding the immediate release of the hostages. We'll have more from Iran coming up in a few moments. Two of our correspondents standing by there in the studios about what's likely to happen and the feeling in the streets. We'll also be taking a look at the Shah's regime. But first, let's take a look now at the weather through the eyes and the meteorology of Bob Ryan.
Got a lot of wind in my forecast today, Tom. No comments. Strong winds through much of the country today. A fast-moving storm system in southern Canada. The Windy City is this morning where the wind's gusting to 30 miles per hour. And through the plains, winds are gusting to 50 miles per hour in Bismarck. Even though it will be cooler behind that fast-moving storm, the northern and central plains still above normal. And temperatures much, much above normal in the east today. Strong winds through the Ohio Valley all the way into New England, where it will be cloudy. Down the coast, through the Carolinas, to the Gulf Coast, warm with some high cloudiness. Only spot to have showers still in South Texas there. Also some scattered showers in the Rockies up in the Pacific Northwest. The west, once again today, for the most part, will be mild. Portland, you'll get up to 52 degrees. Look at St. Louis, 65 degrees. In Washington, 58 degrees. More like September almost than December. In Los Angeles, you'll get cooler, 85. Why cooler? Yesterday, it was a record 91 degrees. That's the weather. Here's Tom.
Thanks, Bob. As we promised before the weather, we're going to go now to the studios in Tehran, Iran, where we have two of our correspondents standing by this morning, George Lewis and Fred Francis. Let me begin immediately, gentlemen, with what John Palmer was reporting from the White House. It does now appear from there that some kind of economic squeeze play will be put into effect by the United States. Do you think that will have any effect on Iran and the attitude of the young Muslims at the U.S. Embassy? Can you hear me? George?
Yes, Tom, we can hear you just fine. I think that the Iranians are expecting further moves by the United States. I think that many of them expect that the United States will try some sort of military force, perhaps a blockade, perhaps something more serious. What effect it will have on the students at the embassy is hard to say. Any moves by the United States, of course, I'm sure the White House is trying to calculate the risks to the hostages involved, but it's hard to say at this point what the mood of the students is. We know that there are some very radical students in that embassy, and we know that there are some more moderates. And which faction is on top right now, we're not sure.
George, let me ask you about, or Fred, either one, let me ask you about the timetable for a trial of the hostages and the scenario for such a trial. That's a little confusing this morning. Gobzadeh was saying that the students will conduct the trial. Now the students are saying that the Revolutionary Council will conduct the trial. We don't know when this will take place. Is it any more clear there?
No, it's really not. Tom, all the interrogation has been done. They presumably are ready to go ahead with the trial, if in fact that is what the Ayatollah Khomeini wants them to do. We are not sure whether it will be done by the Revolutionary Council or the students. The first word here is that the students will conduct the trial. Certainly that, we know what kind of justice is involved with the Revolutionary Council. They have a pretty good record of summary justice and execution. So, but we also don't know how moderate the students will be in conducting a trial. Right now, everyone is just waiting. To go back to the other point about hoping that the religious zealousness from the holidays will calm them down now that the holidays are at an end. That's quite unlikely. Every day that goes on, they feel stronger and stronger. We haven't talked to the students per se, but the people on the street around the embassy and in the universities feel very strongly that way, that it doesn't make any difference what the United States does economically or militarily. They feel they've got the upper hand.
Tom, one word about the Revolutionary Council and what seems to be going on there. There appears to be a split among the members of the Revolutionary Council. The majority of the council favors some sort of trial right now as a means of bringing further embarrassment against the United States, as a means of pressing Iran's case. And these trials, they see it as a propaganda effort partly. And perhaps the trials will also be used to put the Shah on trial. If they can't get him back here to be put on trial in person, they'll try him in absentia.
Is there any feeling that now that there is a constitution, that it was passed overwhelmingly, that the Ayatollah Khomeini is personally clearly now in charge, that the students will feel that they have to do something quickly lest they lose the power that they have?
The legitimizing of the Ayatollah's power, it was just pro forma. He has always been in power. The Constitution was something he wanted. That Constitution changes absolutely nothing here. I don't think we'll put any pressure on the students. He's clearly acting on the Ayatollah's. They are clearly acting on the Ayatollah's behalf, and I firmly believe that they will do what he wants them to do.
That's the feeling I have too, but there's also a Marxist faction involved here which does not answer to the Ayatollah, and we honestly don't know at this point how much power they command within that embassy compound.
How are you gentlemen doing on the streets of Tehran these days?
Just fine. The people here seem friendly to us as reporters. They often criticize our reports. Just before we went on the air, one of the technicians here at the television station came up to me and said, "I didn't like your report last night. You don't tell the truth." We get a lot of that, but personally, they don't hassle us. We feel like there is no threat to us personally. How do you feel, Fred?
I haven't felt any threat. When I introduced myself as American right away, I want them to know that I'm an American so they don't accuse me of hiding anything. And I think the biggest question I come up with is not why President Carter is doing something or why you're keeping the Shah, but in the last few days, the question that I have been asked most is, what is the United States going to do militarily? And that's what most Iranians are concerned about right now.
George Lewis, Fred Francis, thanks very much, reporting live from Tehran this morning. Back in a few moments, we're going to take a look at the history of the man who is at the center of all of this, the deposed Shah. First, this is Today on NBC.
Have you seen us? Have you seen siblings this Christmas?
See what's new for your kitchen. Nordic Ware Premium Cookware featuring the exclusive Silverstone surface by DuPont. This stylish heavy aluminum cookware provides even heating and guarantees no stick cooking, easy cleanup, and never a need for fat or oil. Available for the holidays at Sibley's.
Beautiful ornamental ice. Seafoods are more appetizing than ever before when surrounding ornamental ice. Fresh fruits are more delectable when surrounding ornamental ice. Cold cuts are more scrumptious when surrounding ornamental ice. Simply fill mold with water, freeze it, and like magic, ornamental ice. Ornamental ice adds elegance to any table. Ornamental ice includes 2 lifetime reusable molds, and it makes a great Christmas gift.
The perfect gift, available at these fine stores.
This year, step up to the snow country look. With ski wear from White Stag, you'll be a step ahead in style.
Snow country.
The Barrel Store has Christmas gift ideas for you. Play Santa this year with our unique Barrel Store gift selection. We stock wine barrels, barrel clocks, barrel mugs, and much more. Visit the Barrel Store in East Rochester for a barrel full of Christmas gifts at factory outlet prices. The Barrel Store, this area's distributor of Redwood hot tubs, a new dimension in home relaxation and luxury. This Christmas, shop the Barrel Store in the East Rochester Industrial Park.
The Shah of Iran. Who is he and where did he come from? Well, before the fall, his life was pretty good. We show you now these pictures from this issue of Time magazine. You see a man who lived in splendor and had what seemed like godlike power in his own country. This was the Shah's father. This was the beginning of the dynasty in the 20th century. In 1953, a coup backed by the CIA put this Shah back on the throne for what it looked like to be a long stay. As you've heard many times during all of this debate, American presidents from Roosevelt right on through Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Carter backed the Shah to the hilt. You see him there with Adlai Stevenson, for example. The regal family toppled in Iran by what amounted to a religious revolution by a devout Muslim led by the Ayatollah. There he is in all of his splendor in times gone by. And this man is William Forbis. He's a former editor of Time magazine. Now with Time Inc. at Money magazine, he's written a book called The Fall of the Peacock Throne, a book that he has had to update twice in recent months. First of all, I think a lot of people hear the phrase imperial dynasty and they think that the Shah traces his ancestry as a ruler back thousands of years, but that simply isn't the case.
No, the preceding regime was the Qajars that had held power for about 100 years and had become very decadent, and the Shah's father, who was a colonel, a military man, decided that in the name of keeping the country from continuing this slide, he'd have to take over. And in 1925, he did.
And he had his own problems with the Islamic leaders, with the Ayatollahs of that time.
He was a contemporary of Kemal Ataturk in Turkey, who effectively did take the power away from the mullahs. And Reza Shah, the Shah's father, tried to do the same thing and did with considerable success. This veil that we see on television screens so much nowadays was virtually abolished for a while.
But at the same time, the Shah's father consolidated his position in Iran with the use of violence as well, did he not?
Yes, he required the same sort of measures that the recent Shah thought he needed. That is, secret police and a lot of repression. Mossadegh, the man who tried to overthrow the Shah in 1953, was in jail for a long, long time under Reza Shah.
And this Shah, the one that we're talking about now, that's at Lackland Air Force Base, he had a curious childhood in many ways. He was very close to his father, but he was not a son who came by military posture, I guess you could say, quite naturally. He was not well when he was a child.
No, he was sick a lot and was sort of a weak little child with no force to his character, and that worried his father a great deal. And his father shaped him into the most forceful man he could make out of him, which in the end it turned out was not too forceful.
Let's talk for just a moment about his own sense of being the king of Iran and what that may have done to him ultimately. You feel that there was ever a time during the Shah's regime in which the people of Iran were proud of him and proud to have him as a king, as, say, the people of England are proud to have their monarch?
No, I don't think so. A few court followers was about the extent of it. The main feeling that the Iranian people had during the Shah's regime was of oppression. When I was there, I kept telling myself I'd hate to be a citizen of Iran. The police were behind you all the time, a secret policeman in every classroom, every business, spies all over the place.
As you well know, there are many in this country who say, look, the Shah brought many reforms to Iran. I mean, it may have gone against the grain of the Islamic law, but at the same time, while he may have stolen lots of money, he also created a lot of wealth in Iran.
He did do a lot of good. American and Japanese and other foreigners 10 years ago were refusing to build a steel mill in Iran. Iran needed steel. The Shah made a deal with Russia to take gas that was flared off from the oil field, send it to Russia by a pipeline. The Russians sent back engineers and machinery, and they put up a big steel mill, and I saw the steel coming out of the blast furnaces. And they need it. They had the iron ore, they had the coal, and they have the market, chiefly a big market for construction.
What about his wife and her influence on him? The impression that I've always had is that she was quite a leveling influence on him during the course of their time there together.
Well, I'm sure that I don't think she influenced him too much, but to the extent that she did, she was the good lady.
Mm. He was, at the end, stunned by what had happened to him.
He certainly was.
But he resisted the efforts of some of his military people to turn this into a full-scale civil war in Iran.
That's where the one of the defects of the Shah's character came out. He lost his force. He sort of lost his will to go on. He had been misled by his sycophants into thinking that he was popular and had done a lot of good. And the revolution plainly revealed that that wasn't true.
Some people say that the Shah is no worse than other rulers in that part of the world, that the kind of punishment that you saw handed out on the part of Sabak and so on is just a part of a long continuing tradition. What would be your reaction to that?
I think that's true. If you put it on a scale of 1 to 10 of increasing oppression or something like that, the Iran under the Shah would be around 5.
Yeah. Compared to the rest of the Middle East.
Yes, and if you compare it to Iran's history, the Shahs of the past, he was much milder than they were. They were bloody tyrants.
Iran is not a homogeneous state. I mean, there are many tribes in there, and the Shiites are in control, obviously, but at the same time, there are different loyalties within Iran itself. You see that ultimately as the undoing of the Ayatollah?
I do indeed. I think that Iran's going to fall apart as soon as this hostage question is resolved and the Ayatollah is left running the country with his own inefficient, bumbling, uncertain way. The strains are great. You can see them today in Azerbaijan, where they refused to vote for the constitution yesterday, largely led by another Ayatollah, Shalit Madari, who is the number 2 man in the picture, and I don't doubt a rival of...
he doesn't like the idea of the Ayatollah Khomeini having all that power, is what it really comes right down to.
Comes right down to that, yeah.
Forbis, thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Glad to be here.
22 past 7 now. We'll be back in a moment. This is Today on NBC.
But I wouldn't even think about going anywhere else. That was my first thought.
Everybody's talking about toy shopping at Kitty City. Let's listen.
They're all name brands, and their prices you can't beat.
The selection is fabulous.
I'd like to have my choice of what I'm going to buy, and here I can have that choice.
Here, they've got a selection. You want an electronic toy, you don't have 2 to choose from. You've got 102 or whatever.
The prices are excellent.
Kitty City, America's toy supermarket.
They have everything. Name it, they've got it.
There are many reasons to buy an Amana Touchmatic 2 radar range microwave oven. And now another Amana First, the exclusive Rotawave cooking system. A rotating shower of power that cooks more evenly and cooks most foods faster than ever before.
Free $89.90 giveaway on all Rotawaves. Free popcorn popper. Free coffee maker. Free cooking classes adds up to $89.90 savings on the Amana radar range with Rotawave. Rochester, Hoffman Music and Appliances, and Gitlin's Appliance. Spencerport, Page Appliance.
Oh, the lovely, nutty things you can do with diamond walnuts.
Do you know Waterpick doesn't have the shower power of the Polynex showerhead?
Wow, I know.
Do you know Waterpick doesn't have the stimulating power of the Polynex jet massage?
Do I know?
Do you know Waterpick doesn't have the 4 powerful feelings of the Polynex?
I know. I know. I know. I know.
Now you know which massaging showerhead to get. The Dial Massage by Polynex.
A $3 manufacturer's rebate at these fine stores.
Six minutes with the latest news on the Iranian crisis. There's a meeting going on at the White House this morning. We'll try to bring you up to date on what they're thinking about there.
And the Trekkies won after all these years. Star Trek is back. Leonard Nimoy is here. But first, the station break.
Tonight on Real People, it's the women's Frisbee champion and meet a hamster that's going somewhere.
This is the morning news with Merrill Gray.
Good morning. Windy with scattered showers today and a high of 45 to 50 degrees. Continued windy tonight, a chance of snow flurries or showers, and more snow flurries are expected tomorrow. We'll take a complete look at the weather for Rochester in a few minutes. A Rochester man is dead this morning after a fishing accident near Bear Creek Harbor in Wayne County last night. Authorities say 31-year-old Daniel Mikolos of Chatfield Street in Rochester was fishing in the lake a short distance from Bear Creek Marina when his small boat capsized. Mikolos tried to swim to shore and nearly made it, but people on the scene said he apparently got caught in the current at the mouth of the harbor and went under. 23-year-old Stephen Matthews of Empire Boulevard in Webster was with Mikolos when the boat capsized. Matthews inflated a life jacket he was wearing, and he was rescued. Mikolos' body was found a short time later. Authorities said that Mikolos was not wearing a life jacket. In Canandaigua, a Buffalo man drowned yesterday after he fell into the Canandaigua Lake from the city pier. The victim was 67-year-old Walter Poloniak of Buffalo, a patient at the VA hospital in Canandaigua. Canandaigua police said Poloniak was pulled from the water by a passerby, but he died a short time later at a local hospital. A state Supreme Court jury has found a Cottage Street man guilty of strangling his girlfriend to death last May. The defendant is Anthony Weech, who now faces a maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison in connection with the killing of Shalit Arlene. The jury in the trial began deliberating at 4 in the afternoon yesterday, announcing its verdict shortly after 9 last evening. People who might have problems paying their heating bill this winter were in large numbers at the City Council meeting last night, represented by the People's Energy Committee. The committee asking City Council to declare a state of emergency and help keep people from facing a heatless winter. City Council members told the group they have little power to call a state of emergency in a situation which might be at hand later this winter. The Energy Committee wanted the Council to take action to roll back utility rates to half and keep heating fuel prices down. The Energy Committee is planning to go to Albany next week to lobby against the high cost of heat. Monroe County legislators approved most of the proposed 1980 county budget last evening. Last night's discussions included a measure which eliminates the county's 3% sales tax on home heating fuels. Legislators continue to hedge, however, when that will go into effect. There are legal problems, among them the need to determine whether towns and other municipalities in the county will object to losing their part of that tax revenue. The legislators are voting on their bond issues line by line, and for now, a proposed raise for the county manager and his aides has been tabled. 28 minutes past 7. We'll be back with a look at the weather for the Rochester area in a minute.
We've got to focus everything in my face because that's most important. I'll trade anything you got in your closet for a... You got a musical instrument, I'll trade it for a stereo. You got a stereo, I'll trade it for a musical instrument. I'll trade about anything for anything. Give me a Z, Blaine. No matter what you got in the closet, bring it in. I'll offer you cash for it. You got an old Fender Stratocaster or an old Gibson Les Paul, I'll give you a dime or two.
I've tried other butters, and I think that Land O'Lakes butter is definitely the best.
We asked homemakers why they choose Land O'Lakes butter.
Land O'Lakes is always fresh, delicate. It's just always good. It's fantastic. I wouldn't use anything else.
Land O'Lakes, made only from fresh, sweet cream. Consistently good pound after pound.
I'm not just saying this. Land O'Lakes is a terrific butter.
When the flavor really counts, make the butter Land O'Lakes.
The forecast for the Rochester area calls for windy skies and scattered showers today, the high 45 to 50 degrees. Tonight, continued cloudy, windy with the scattered showers or snow flurries, the low tonight in the mid-30s. Then on Thursday, continued showers or flurries and a high around 50 degrees. The chance of precipitation is 30% through tomorrow. For the weekend, the chance of showers Friday, the low about 30, the high Friday in the mid-40s. Showers or flurries likely on Saturday with a high in the mid-30s once again. Fair on Sunday, the high remaining in the 30s. Currently cloudy in Rochester, the temperature 37 degrees, relative humidity 69%. Winds are from the southeast at 13 miles per hour. The barometer reads 29.75 inches and falling. I'm Merrill Gray. I'll be back at 8:25 with an update.
This has been the Morning News with Merrill Gray. Santa's home, and home is Eastview Mall, where there's a fantasy land of candy canes and color, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 10, Sundays, noon to 6, including Santa's workshop and print shop and much, much more. While youngsters are telling Santa their most wanted Christmas wishes, Mom and Dad will be dazzled by the season's most wanted gifts, all together in a holiday collection of ideas at McCurdy, Sibley's, and Sears, and the 100 stores along the way. For children and color and a holiday collection of gifts, it's Eastview Mall.
WROC TV 8.
Good morning, everyone. It's 7:30. It's Wednesday, and it's December 5th. I know that because Gene Shalit told me that earlier in this program. He's here at the desk because he's been out in the hallway trying to get his ears on straight, as you put it. You've got a kind of good guest coming up.
I have a wonderful guest coming up. We have Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock of Star Trek. There's a big movie opening up this Friday, Star Trek, the motion picture. And Leonard Nimoy is going to be here in person in this half hour.
The best halftime in the history of football is the Orange Bowl. Dick Schaap is going to have a preview. I doubt that he's going to be talking about halftime, however.
No, I think we're going to take a look at some football players who are going to be participating in both ends of the halftime. Right. But before we get to all of that, let's take a look at the news. Now, President Carter is meeting with his top advisors this morning to discuss the Iranian hostage crisis. They reviewed the situation last night at an extraordinary meeting, looking at possible courses of action. Those include diplomatic moves and possible economic sanctions against Iran. The Iranians renewed their threat this morning against the Americans who are being held hostage at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. The Muslim students inside the embassy said they'll try their hostages as spies unless the deposed Shah is returned to Iran. The students said they have no intention of complying with the United Nations resolution that calls for the immediate release of the hostages. The UN Security Council approved that resolution yesterday. The vote was unanimous, all 15 delegations voting in favor of releasing the hostages. The resolution also calls for peaceful efforts to resolve differences between the United States and Iran. The White House says it is ready to do that as soon as the hostages are free. Meanwhile, armed men turned up this morning for the daily demonstration outside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. It's the first time that armed people have showed up in any numbers. Most of them this morning appeared to be members of the Revolutionary Guard.
The government will fly relatives of the embassy hostages to Washington for a briefing on Friday. Officials say they'll get a status report from Secretary of State Vance. At the same time, officials say privately they are not making much progress in finding a country willing to accept the deposed Shah. He remains under heavy guard at Lackland Air Base in Texas. That's where he's recuperating from cancer and gallstone treatment. In Puerto Rico, authorities are still looking for the terrorists who attacked a U.S. Navy bus, killing 2 sailors. We get a report now from Ike Siemens.
The hero of the ambush was Chief Petty Officer Warren Smith of Pensacola, Florida. He took charge when the terrorists opened fire.
I didn't think of reasons or anything like that. I just was more interested, since I was a senior person on the bus, of the welfare of the rest on the bus and ensuring that they got down and as much out of the way as they could, and then getting the bus out of the area.
Smith was hit in the face and back during the ambush. When the driver and another man were killed, he drove the bus back to the Navy base. Petty Officer 3rd Class Joe Key of El Paso, Texas, was wounded in the hip and hand. He says the terrorist demands for the return of an offshore island is a problem for governments to solve.
Why us? Why should they attack people? They don't understand that other people like to live too.
Puerto Rican police and the FBI say they have descriptions of 2 of the 4 or 5 terrorists who shot up the Navy bus, but so far no arrests have been made. Ike Siemens, NBC News, San Juan.
We'll be back in a minute with weather news and some news from the business fronts as well after a message.
Oh, where's Sarah Tucker? She'll be back. What's wrong? Everyone says this isn't a Tucker-in dessert. You served it like that? Yes.
They're right. You know what Sarah says.
No. Oh, remember, it's my first day.
It's just not dessert without the fresh taste of Cool Whip.
Oh, not just fresh. Taste fresh is homemade. It does make desserts taste better.
Sarah says that, too.
Cool Whip non-dairy whip topping.
To me, it's just not dessert without Cool Whip. Tastes fresh as homemade.
You'll find a Christmas gift that's right for everyone on your list in Santa's Parade catalog from True Value hardware stores. Like the Nelson McCoy Pasta Collection, perfect for your favorite host or hostess. Choose a shaker for Parmesan cheese and dishes for pasta and bread. And they're all designed for both microwave and conventional ovens and feature the convenience of freezer to oven to table serving. See them and other Nelson McCoy pottery at the gift center of participating True Value hardware stores.
Time now to look at money news this morning. Officials of the Auto Workers Union plan to demonstrate at the Capitol today to press for a federal bailout or loan guarantee for Chrysler. A Senate committee wants the union to accept a wage freeze as a quid pro quo for that federal guarantee. Meanwhile, the automakers have released their November sales report. It shows that car sales dropped more than 23.5%. And on Wall Street, stock prices closed higher yesterday. Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 5 points altogether. Let's take a look at the gains and the losses on the weather map. Here's Bob Ryan to do that.
More gains, I want to tell you. Usually we have a forecast that's a breeze. Today we've got one that's a wind, a big wind. They brought a record high temperature overnight, St. Cloud, Minnesota, 52 degrees. A fast-moving storm system in southern Canada and a big high-pressure area to the south, and the result, strong winds through much of the country. Big band of clouds there from the lakes to the southwest, but hardly anything in the way of rain or snow. Watertown and San Antonio, that's about it. Watertown has a snow flurry. This morning, the storm racing through the lakes with strong winds through the plains. And by this afternoon, there'll be some rain showers in Michigan, some snow flurries, light, around Wisconsin, won't amount to anything. By this evening, the cooler air will be spreading through much of the plains with the strong winds into the Ohio Valley, reaching into New England, along with the cloudiness that'll spread to New England. But the snow of any significance will stay put in southern Canada, not affect the United States other than those flurries. Down the coast, unseasonably warm again today through the Virginias, the Carolinas, and the Gulf Coast. There's a big mass of moisture lurking in the Gulf that'll come get you along the Gulf Coast tomorrow. For today, just high clouds. Scattered showers continuing in South Texas and also through the Rockies, where there is a high wind warning out today through Colorado and southeastern Wyoming. Some light snow up there in Montana, the west to Oregon, down to California. Plenty of sunshine today and rather pleasant, as it will be in Missoula, Montana, where it'll be 42 degrees cooler, but still pleasant. Look at San Diego. Close to another record, you folks, in San Diego. 81 degrees. In Oklahoma City, 70, along with Jacksonville, Florida. Evansville, not bad at all for December, 62. In New York City, a windy day in the canyons, the temperature 52 degrees. That's the weather. Coming up, Gene Shalit by himself in the Critics' Corner with each other. We'll be back.
More ties, more cufflinks. What can you give your favorite fella for Christmas? Well, here's what. A very special dress shirt. It's soft, comfortable, 100% cotton with performance added. That's right, the 100% cotton he loves is 100% treated for the all-cotton easy care you love. This wonderful Christmas gift is ready now at most large JCPenney stores and in their catalog. Pick up a gift tomorrow. When you're looking for comfort, look for the seal of cotton. The more cotton, the better you feel.
Making decorated cookies is part of the magic of Christmas.
Make them with Pillsbury Slice and Bake Sugar Cookies.
Having some fun on this holiday night with the magic of popping fresh dough. The fun's in the making, just slice it and bake it, and sprinkle and shake, and you're ready to take
My very own Santa.
You can make magic, you know.
Christmas cookies this easy must be magic.
The magic of popping fresh dough.
Ho, ho, ho!
Good morning and welcome to the Critics' Corner. You know, there are many little pictures being shown these days, little in production and confined in subject and scope. I don't know whether this is caused by a shortage of banking money to make movies or whether it's a shortage of writing talent. Without good writing, there cannot be a good movie. Everything follows from the script. There are certainly far more gifted actors and actresses than there are writers. It has always been that way because it's a lot easier to say somebody else's words than it is to think up the words yourself. That's why we have greeting cards. The newest little movie is called Each Other. It is written and directed by Michal Bat-Adam, who also plays one of the three principal roles, a girl in her 20s who says she's writing a book, though she never gets around to it during this movie. She's crossing Israel on her way to Jerusalem when, on the train, she meets a girl who befriends her. Well, the two girls get to be very friendly. It's soon clear that the second girl, who is French, Brigitte Chatillon, is highly attracted to Miss Bat-Adam, who, in turn, has a boyfriend, Asaf Dayan, in Tel Aviv, and she is lonely for him. By the way, in actuality, Asaf Dayan is Moshe Dayan's son. Before long, we are enveloped in a plot configuration entwining three people whose lives are permanently altered by their relationships with one another. He with she with she, and he with them. The film ambles and rambles its slow-paced way, wandering up Jerusalem's hills, sitting around hotel lobbies, and loving languidly in explicit sexual scenes. The writing is of a modest order, the direction and performances are of a modest order, and so are those who made each other. Those who made each other have a good deal to be modest about. That's the Critics' Corner this morning. We'll now have a station break.
Kate joins a sex therapy group looking for answers to a murder Thursday.
A cord of wood delivers as much heat as 200 gallons of oil, a ton of coal, or 4,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. But not in ordinary stoves. This much wood in a Black Bart wood stove heats my home overnight, thanks to unique louvered vents, double walls, plus comfort control. And computerized production means Black Bart costs up to half as much as ordinary stoves. Talk to your Black Bart dealer before you're left out in the cold.
TV8 in Rochester.
We have here a kind of combination of business and sports news. One of the biggest of the New Year's Day football games is the Orange Bowl, of course. This year, Florida State against Oklahoma. Here's Dick Shah now, sitting with about $6 million worth of football players and 2 coaches. Dick?
That game on New Year's Day will be played in Miami. It'll be here on NBC. That meeting in the Orange Bowl between once defeated Oklahoma and unbeaten Florida State. It'll feature the collision of 2 gifted coaches, both of whom are with us today. Barry Switzer of Oklahoma and Bobby Bowden of Florida State, and 2 gifted football players, Billy Sims of Oklahoma and Ron Simmons of Florida State. This is Billy Sims in action, number 20. Came in second this year in the Heisman Trophy voting. He was the winner of the Heisman Trophy last year. And this is Ron Simmons, the nose guard for Florida State, making a play here, which shows what he does to running backs. Ron, could you take a look here at Billy running and tell me what you're going to do to him on New Year's Day? How do you stop that number 20?
Oh, I can't see any way possible from the way he's running it right there. I think it's going to take 11.
Take 11. You probably won't even bother to show up then in Miami.
Well, I think I'll be there, but I'm going to be there along with 10 others, I can say.
Well, you didn't have too much help on that one. Billy, could you describe yourself here? Do you enjoy watching yourself run?
Sometimes when I look back, it's very amazing with the things that I do with the football. But while I'm out there, the work and everything is pretty hard. But as long as I got guys up front blocking for me like the lineman I have, can make it possible.
Here we'll show a little bit more of Ron Simmons doing the kind of work that he loves to do to show running backs that he's their friend. I feel a little uncomfortable just sitting between the 2 of you watching this, because if either of you gets excited, I'm dead. And one more hit there for Ron Simmons. Bobby Bowden, coach of Florida State. Florida State had some tough seasons before you got there 4 years ago. What's turned the program around, 11-0 this year?
Well, Florida State has a lot of potential because it's in Florida, Dick. It's attractive to young men, and the state of Florida has good football players. There's 9 million people there, and that's a lot in the South, and there's a lot of good players there.
In Oklahoma, Barry, of course, Oklahoma hasn't had much of a football winning tradition, only for about 70 or 80 years. How do you keep coming up with players like Billy Sims?
Well, we're close enough to Texas, Dick, that we can recruit good players. We've built a great tradition in Oklahoma with high school football players in the state of Oklahoma, plus our proximity is close enough to a great state of Texas where we're able to recruit outstanding players from there.
You 2 guys are going to be colliding, literally colliding on New Year's Day. And you just met yesterday. You've known each other for 24 hours now. Billy, what do you think of Ron? Is he a nice fella?
I think he is, but, once we put those uniforms on, it'll have to be a different story then. That's why I'm trying to get to really know the guy before we meet up in Miami on New Year's night.
How do you feel about that, Ron?
Oh, since I've known him, I could, think of that. We've been playing together, but like he said, once, we're out there on the field, it's a totally different story. And we're out there with the same intention, and that's to win the football game.
You like him so much you can't wait to New Year's Day to put your arms around him.
Well, I like him, but, once, like you said, once you put those pads on, there isn't too much love between each other.
Do you try to psych yourself up? Do you look at Billy Sims and say, I'm going to hit him as hard as I can on New Year's Day?
Well, I don't personally take a grudge toward him just like that because he's an outstanding back. I go into each game thinking, and doing the same thing to anyone that happens be carrying the ball, whether he's a great running back or just average. And, it will be playing against him, and whatever it takes to win the football game, that's what type of effort I'll be putting out.
How do you feel about linemen generally, nose guards particularly?
Sometimes they scare me if they're good as Ron, and I'm going to try to watch and find out which way he slants so I can run the other way. And I think, our offensive center's going to have, a good day trying to stop him.
You came in second this year in the Heisman Trophy voting. You came in behind Charles White the other day. Was it very disappointing?
Not really, due to the fact that we had a young team and I had an outstanding season with a young team. And I think Charles White was well, you know, honored for winning the Heisman Trophy. I have a lot of respect for him. I won it last year, and so I'm very happy with the one that I have.
You said, at least I saw you quoted, that you would have voted for Charles White this year. Is that true?
Definitely. The way his season was going as an individual performer and a team player, that I think he deserved to win the Heisman Trophy.
Ron, you were the only player in the top 10 who was a lineman. How did that feel?
Well, it felt to me just like I had won the Heisman, just even being, you know, in contention for it. And, you know, just to be associated with players like Sims and White, you know, it's a great honor for me to be anywhere near them.
Coach, how do you feel knowing that you've got Ron Simmons back next year?
I feel much more secure than if I didn't. Much more.
Describe him as a fellow. What makes him so good?
He's got everything it takes. He's got strength. He's got speed. He's got great desire to play football. He is a good man. He's very dependable. Loves to play football.
Barry, you've been watching the films. How tough is he?
He's a great player. One of the super football players, interior linemen in the country today, Dick. I think of the Selman brothers at Oklahoma, and Ron is the same type of player. He's got great strength, quickness, and speed, and super competitor.
I think I should mention that earlier when we were watching the discussion on Iran, you said the best solution to the crisis would be to send the Selman brothers over to Iran.
Take care of them today.
Yeah, that would ruin the Tampa Bay football team, though. Billy, tell me, what's going to happen on New Year's Day? How are you going to do?
Hopefully, we'll come out with a victory in our hand. Hopefully, we have a clean-cut football, and I'm pretty sure, you know, Florida State looking for the same thing. But after it's all over and said and done, you know, Ron and I will be best of friends, hopefully.
I'm sure it'll be a perfect way to spend New Year's night watching Florida State against Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl and here on NBC. And now, back to Jane Pauley.
It's taken more than a decade, but Star Trek is back, and Leonard Nimoy is with us today. We'll be back with him, Mr. Spock, after a message.
'7-Eleven stores know what breakfast memories are made of. The down-home aroma of sizzling country sausage, hot biscuits rising on the sheet. Sausage and biscuits, what a breakfast. And with a fresh brewed cup of hot coffee, well, great day in the morning. Nowadays, 7-Eleven's got a sausage and biscuit sandwich that brings the country into town. 7-Eleven sausage and biscuit sandwich, the kind of breakfast that memories are made of.
Jean-Claude Kiri, international ski champion, talks about Schwinn.
Exercise is important to me, so when the weather is bad, I often ride my Schwinn exerciser. There is no better way to get the benefits of cycling all year long. This Schwinn Deluxe exerciser has an adjustable resistance control, a speedometer, an odometer, and a timer. C'est magnifique!
A Schwinn Deluxe exerciser is $169.95, assembled and ready to ride.
I just discovered Common Sense.
The new Common Sense microwave from Magic Chef.
It cooks my big family-sized meals fast. Meat, potatoes, and vegetables. And Magic Chef designed it to cook by itself. But best of all, it's so simple. Even Jack can use it.
It just takes common sense, Barbara.
Common sense from Magic Chef. This there isn't cooking for a long time to come.
Star Trek is one of television's most unusual shows. It got more popular after it was canceled than it was while it was on. Star Trek was on the NBC TV network during the middle 1960s. Then it was canceled because of low ratings. Then it got popular. It went into syndication. It became a massive cult hit. Conventions, T-shirts, fan clubs, fan mail. And no character was or remains more popular than was Mr. Spock, the half-human, half-Vulcan, played so impressively by Leonard Nimoy. Mr. Nimoy has starred not only in Star Trek, he's been on Broadway in Equus, he's been in The Man in the Glass Booth, he's been in musicals, he was Fagin and Oliver, he was Tevye and Fiddler on the Roof. Now, Star Trek is about to open in a multi-million-dollar movie production called, you shouldn't mistake it, Star Trek The Motion Picture. How do you like that for a title? And we're all anxious to see the pointy-eared Mr. Spock. Here with us this morning, live, in person, is the very normal-eared Leonard Nimoy.
You're a very emotional person.
Well, I'm very happy to see you. I mean, you know how many people would give a lot to change places with me and be near you? Three? Where are they? There's guy in Peoria. Actually, you were the subject of such adulation. Wasn't it tough on your private life? I mean, people think of you, so many kids, millions of adults, think of you as Spock. Did it bother your life?
Why should it bother my...
I mean, you walk down the street, did people come after you?
Now, are we going to talk about Star Trek?
Sure.
What a break. What a break. I love it.
You didn't think we were going to do that?
People don't let me talk about Star Trek. They won't ask me any Star Trek questions at all. They keep asking me about all the other things I'm doing.
For instance.
And you're going to ask me about Star Trek. I don't want to talk about anything else.
Okay.
Really.
Let's talk about
what do you
Star
want to
Trek.
know?
I want to know, when you got 4,000 letters a week,
Yeah.
what was the general thrust of such letters? Were they I love you, or were they asking for something? What kind of mail did you get? I won't ask you what they're asking for then.
No, I got very lovely mail. I mean, the pictures, they want pictures. Most of the letters that people write you want pictures. But they want to know, do the ears hurt? You know, very important questions like that.
Do the ears hurt?
No.
Did you ever get yourself confused with the character? Did it get to be a nuisance?
I want to tell you something. I wrote a book called I Am Not Spock, but nobody believed me. They won't take me seriously. How could I possibly be Spock? When Spock was 13 years old, he was studying logic on Vulcan. When Leonard Nimoy was 13 years old, he was in Boston studying bar mitzvah. It's two different people.
That's exactly right.
I have a brother 3 years older than me. For a Vulcan, that's impossible, because everybody knows that Vulcans only mate once every 7 years. It's impossible. I'm not Spock.
You're not Spock, okay. What happened when there were conventions? What happened when you had to go in front of people? Was it scary? Was the public adulation of you in any way frightening?
No, never, never. Never in the mob sense. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
No, never, never. Always very respectful, a lot of adulation, but not the screaming, pushing, shoving, yelling kind.
Why do you think that the character Spock had such a grip on the viewers? What was there about that character that made him special?
Brilliant acting, I think.
Brilliant acting.
Yeah.
It's probably true. What else? Wasn't there anything about his personality that grabbed
The
people?
man is very dignified, very wise, cool.
That's you.
Yeah.
There's nothing between you and him. Right. But there was a time where you said you never wanted to see this stuff again. You didn't want to go back in television. How come you did the
Who
movie?
said that? Why do you say things like that? No, I never said that.
Did you immediately agree to make the movie?
There was a period of time when the common conception was that I was refusing to do it. Right. I was here talking to you at that time when I was doing Equus.
Right.
And at that time, Paramount was considering doing Star Trek, the television series. I was not available. I was here in New York, working here. They tried to work it out that I could fly in every night to do Equus and fly back every morning to do Star Trek. It wouldn't work. Even with a Concorde, it wouldn't work. You know.
In the movie Star Trek, which opens Friday, you are the last principal character to come aboard Enterprise, the starship.
Yes.
We have that scene, and we're going to show that scene of Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock going on board the Enterprise. Can we see that?
I'm looking forward to it.
Here you come.
Yes.
You haven't seen the movie yet?
No.
Permission to come aboard, sir.
Granted, granted.
Please.
Spock. Spock.
I've been monitoring your communications with Starfleet Command, Captain. I'm aware of your engine design difficulties. I offer my services as science officer. With all due respect, Commander.
Well, so help me, I'm actually pleased to see you.
Captain, with your permission, I will now discuss these fuel equations with the engineer. Mr. Spock, welcome aboard.
That's a nice emotional scene.
That's great acting.
You never saw
Great
that before.
acting. You have no idea what was going through my mind when we shot that scene. The company had already been working together for a month. It was my first day on the set, back after 10 years. I had such mixed emotions. I was 25% exhilarated, 25% in shock, 25% deja vu. That's 75%. 25% terrified.
I have to ask you something, because nobody has ever been on our program and had his luggage. Are you going to have a fast getaway?
No. I have a friend that I travel with, and I didn't want to leave him in the hotel room because he gets very lonely. So I brought him along. Do you mind if he listens?
No, who is that?
That's Vincent.
Vincent van Gogh.
That's who he is. Van Gogh. You
Van
almost
Gogh?
said it right, yeah.
So the painter that most people say Vincent van Gogh is the subject of a one-man show that you... I didn't know you had that in there. Is there something, a one-man show called Theo, right?
You're funny this morning. Yeah, it's a show called Vincent. We did an In Search Of episode about him. I went to France and really had a fascinating experience traveling through the countryside where he painted. You know. Isn't he interesting? Vincent, this was done by a Vincent. It's a self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh by Vincent Jeffrey.
I think the most interesting thing about it is that Mr. Spock, whose ears are legendary, should play Vincent van Gogh, whose ear was singular.
You have to do ears.
You went from too many to too few, right?
That's getting to the bottom of the problem. You got the point.
Tomorrow, the multi-million-dollar production of Star Trek opens, and of course, on board, as you just saw, will be Leonard Nimoy as Spock. Thank you very much, and I hope the picture is a very big hit.
If you say nice things about it, it will be.
Okay. Thank you, Leonard Nimoy. We'll be back after this message.
On all the days of Christmas, I'll make cookies for the kids and candy mints for Aunt Lou. I'll whip out canapes before company gets here and fill some cream puffs too. When you've got a Wherever electric super shooter, the holidays are more of a holiday. It does so much so easily. And don't forget, it makes a great gift. Ready, aim, Christmas.
We don't talk the same language. It's finished.
But I brought...
That won't work this time.
Hey, but I brought Jacobazzi.
You brought me Jacobazzi?
I brought the Jacobazzi red and Jacobazzi white.
You know what it means when a man gives a woman Jacobazzi?
Do you know what it means when a woman accepts a Jacobazzi?
Amore.
Jacobazzi, someone Jacobazzi, someone tonight.
I know lots of people who are looking forward to the opening of Star Trek, one who sits between us right here.
I want it to be good.
Just can't wait if you've been talking about it all
A
week.
few years ago, I was having dinner at a restaurant in Chicago with a
grown man.
a grown man, a physicist. Leonard Nimoy came and sat next to us, at the table next to us. The man could not eat for looking at Leonard Nimoy. Such a Trekker, I guess, is, I would be the Trekkie, he would be the Trekker, but I hope it's a good movie.
He was a little reluctant to go back and do that, and it's my understanding they had to pay him a lot of money to get him to come back and do it.
He doesn't talk about that very much.
No, I know it. But he'll prosper as a result of it all. Well, why not? You got to have pointed ears, you ought to make money out of it.
I agree with that.
All right, station break.